So I recently started noticing this weird thing that keeps happening when I use my personal Gmail account. As I'm crafting my correspondence, the computer actually starts predicting the next word that I'm going to type. Have you had this happen? It's weird. Sometimes it even predicts whole sentences. It's like the computer was listening inside my head, which, for the record, I wouldn't recommend to anyone. It's a scary place in there. A quick Google search and I discovered that this feature actually has a name. It's called Smart Compose. It's powered by artificial intelligence to help us draft emails faster. Everything can be done faster, can't it? Whole industries are built on reducing inefficiencies in order to produce quicker results. I mean, that's how the invention of the washing machine got started, right? Rather than spending an entire day or more hand washing the family laundry, women could save time by putting it all into this machine that would wash it for her. Fun fact, washing machines can also be used by men. So now everyone can do the laundry. But the washing machine is only one of countless labor-saving devices that we use every day to curb inefficiencies in our personal lives. Microwaves, dishwashers, even Roombas. Who's got a Roomba in here, right? Those little robot things that go around and clean the floor for you. All of these conveniences save us time and effort. And then out in the world, we can get things done faster too. We can pump our own gas to save time and run our cars through an automated car wash and plug an address into the GPS so we don't even have to map out our travels anymore. We used to have to go to a teller to take out money during banking hours. I know. I can remember it, don't worry. Then we had the privilege of being able to go to an ATM machine, which was much faster. But now you don't even have to do that, right? You can just pay with your phone, which can connect directly to your bank account. At the grocery store, a half a dozen self-checkout machines means more customers get through in less time. No more waiting in pesky lineups. Computers can check out your library books. Amazon can deliver your package by dinner time. We've invented machines that can do the farming for us and cars that can drive and park themselves. And the best part, these technologies actually strain out human error. So less time is wasted, less output of effort, more accurate results, faster, faster, faster. It's almost like the inefficiency is us. Human beings aren't particularly efficient. Someone should probably let God know. Here's what baffles me about stories like today's. Despite our complete lack of competence as a species, God continues to choose human beings as the agents through which God acts in the world today. In the account in Exodus 3, God has identified a major concern, the enslavement of an entire people, the Israelites, God's people. They must be liberated. Can we even conceive of how quickly and efficiently the creator of the cosmos could have been in rectifying the situation? One snap of holy fingers and the cruel Egyptian taskmasters would have evaporated. Pharaoh brought to heel, like some kind of divine James Bond. Go in, eliminate target, drink martini, zip fly out. Mission complete. So quick, so slick, so efficient. Instead, God gives the job to Mr. Bean. And what's even more bizarre to me is this whole burning bush situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, as the official symbol of the Presbyterian Church in Canada, as well as the Church of Scotland, I'm fond of the burning bush. But as far as a means of communication, it's rather odd, don't you think? Why didn't God just simply send an angel to speak to Moses directly or in a dream? Or talk to him while he's fetching water at the well? Why didn't God present a document with all the details and plans? Your mission, Moses, should you choose to accept it. Why a burning bush? Such a bizarre form of communication. Consider what any of us might do if we sauntered past a bush on fire. Most likely run away and call the fire department. We're glad some of you could be with us today. Nevertheless, this is how God chose to solve the problem of Israel's enslavement, by conscripting a fugitive by means of a flaming shrub base of a mountain. Not the most efficient plan. Moses, it says, was tending his father-in-law's flock. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, also called Sinai, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, but it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush. Anything else catch your attention there? How about the fact that God doesn't call out to Moses until after God sees that Moses turned towards the bush? How long had God been waiting in that bush? Had others already passed by that day? What if Moses hadn't turned to face it? Thank goodness that Moses was both curious and easily distracted. When Moses turned towards the bush, God called out to him. So not only does God choose to work through humans, God also always insists on getting our attention first and establishing a relationship with us. Over and over again throughout Scripture, we find evidence of this. One of God's great inefficiencies is waiting for human beings to turn aside and take notice. God could have taken care of the Egypt-Israel problem in the blink of an eye. Instead, God sought out relationship with Moses and his siblings as a method through which liberation would be achieved for Israel. Go to my people, Moses. I'll be with you. And every time I have heard this story, whether sitting in Sunday school as a kid or plopped down on couches in youth group or at conferences in adulthood, every time I've heard this story, it's been considered from Moses' point of view. Moses' response to the burning bush and to the commission he's received to go to Egypt. I've listened to countless sermons about Moses' resistance to the call, his listing of all his flaws and failures and his excuses. And most of these lessons end with this line: God doesn't call the equipped, God equips the called. True, that's still true. But this time, I crawled inside the story, and instead of looking at Moses, I wondered at God. Why do you do things this way, Lord? Why work through people? Why try to capture our attention and invite us into dialogue and relationship? Why negotiate with us on the terms and conditions of the mission? Why humans when we're so good at messing things up, even if our intentions are good? We're a pretty risky investment if liberation and redemption of creation hangs in the balance. I looked at God and I wondered these things. And then I thought about all of you, all of us. You see, in Moses' time, it was the Israelites who were trapped in slavery, but our world today is still riddled with manifestations of slavery, of people crying out for freedom, from human trafficking to sweatshop labor, to drug abuse and addiction, missing and murdered Indigenous women, environmental crises, the shadows of colonialism and the pressures of capitalism. God still hears the cries of creation and is still shouting out today, "Let my people go." And I suspect that because God's method of liberation is human beings, I suspect God is still camping out in burning bushes all around us, figuratively and literally, every day, just waiting for us to take notice and turn aside. Burning bushes everywhere. I'm not sure if you heard it, but the Amazon's on fire. That's a big burning bush. Do you see what I mean? The story, if you look at it, not from Moses' point of view, but if you look at it through the lens of God's actions and God's choices and God's values and God's priorities, if we can even wrap our heads around it. Any one of us could be Moses in this story. A regular human just trying to keep his head down, tend his sheep, do his work all day, go home to his family at night, not looking for any trouble, not looking to rock the boat. But then God captures his attention, invites him into relationship, and then sends him out to the world as an agent of God's liberation. The Exodus story might be thousands of years old, but it's as real and raw and possible today as it was then. God is still trying to get our attention, still trying to draw us into relationship, and is still sending us out into the world to break the chains of injustice, proclaim liberation for the captives, and look at the pharaohs of the world today dead in the eye and shout, "How dare you?" There's a Hasidic tale about Rabbi Uzziah. When he was an old man, he said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, 'Why were you not Moses?' They will ask me, 'Why were you not Uzziah?'" If you step back from it, this isn't a story about Moses being a hero. It's about a God who chooses us, who chooses human beings over and over again. And not a God who just makes demands of us, but a God who genuinely desires to be in relationship with us throughout the process of liberation. "Fine, I'll go," Moses says. "I'll go, but tell me what I should say to the Israelites when they ask me who sent them." In the divine name, I am that I am, which is a weird sermon on its own. I shall be what I shall be, depending on how you translate the Hebrew. Yahweh is the name. But did you notice that God gives another name? God says to Moses, "Tell the Israelites that the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you." You see, God identifies God's self as one who is in relationship to, in covenant with people. Not just the omnipresent, omnipotent, cosmic God of creation, but also the God of Abraham and of John, of Rebecca and Mary, the God of Christine and Esther and Vashti, the God of David and Matthew and Alex and Susan. God actually has a pretty long name, because God is your God, and God is my God, the God of our ancestors, and the God of all future generations. That is how God wishes to be known, as one who's in relationship with people, imperfect people. God wishes to be known as the one who is bringing the kingdom of God to bear in the world through people. God has this relentless love for humanity, even though we're not always the most expedient, foolproof, or efficient way to get things done. God is still calling us from bushes. And God is still inviting us to play a role in the liberation of creation. And sure, there are faster, more efficient ways of getting it done, but this is the way God chooses to bring it about. By capturing our attention, our imagination, calling us by name, and telling us to remove our shoes, because this is holy ground. This right here, where you're standing, whether it's here at Knox or in your kitchen at home, at work, or picking up the kids after school. This is where God seeks to capture our attention while we're tending sheep or balancing the books or answering emails and phone calls or digging up the street, collecting waste and recyclables, stocking shelves, or writing a speech. And as soon as we take notice, As soon as we get a little curious, once we turn aside toward God, we are then called by name and invited to participate with the creator of the cosmos in bringing liberation to our world today. It's not going to be quick and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. We will not each have the same experience that Moses had. God had a task for him, a monumental task, the liberation of an entire population from oppression and slavery. That's not likely to be all of our call. Perhaps our calling is more local, getting to know the kids in your complex by name, meeting a recent widow for lunch every week, mentoring a new grad, serving a meal, visiting people in hospitals and in detention centers, writing to those who make and enforce policies to advocate for justice in the community, the country, and the world. It could be as simple as choosing to stand in line at the grocery store so you can actually talk to another human being and be in relationship with them, rather than opting for the expedience of the self-checkout. None of these things are fast or efficient. I'm sure there's some coder out there who could design an algorithm, something, to solve the world's problems more expediently. But perhaps those things that we hold in high esteem, labor-saving devices and quick solutions, maybe those things just aren't God's priorities. People are God's priorities. Justice for the oppressed, that's God's priority. Care and stewardship of creation, God's priority. And our assurance time and time again is God saying to us, I will be with you. I will be with you. I will be with you always, even to the end of the age. God goes with us. Whatever the work to which God calls us, whether it be peacemaking, justice work, liberation activity, compassion for others, care for the earth, it is shared work with God, with each other. So friends, slow down and take notice. Turn aside and see this strange thing. Take off your shoes. Hear the call. You'll be amazed at what God can accomplish when we do. To God be all the glory. Amen.